From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, real therapists. If you have any questions you'd like to ask or advice you'd like to give, come on over to podtherapy.net and join the conversation. Las Vegas is going for a new Guinness World Record, but it's not what you think. Correction, it's exactly what you think.
Orgy.
And now, broadcasting from Level 9 Studios, that guy's Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Very true. So we are going for the world record in lots of sex. They're going for the world record in orgies this weekend at the Erotic Heritage Museum. And Dr. Hartman is going to be running a study on the whole thing.
All in the name of science.
All sex for science, my man. And so she is running a study with Dr. Amanda Morgan, and they're going to be, I guess, studying the ongoing orgy to figure out how humans pair and select and which parts of the Kama Sutra they like. And so exciting stuff. And so, spoiler alert, I don't want to give away the game here, but we've already contacted Dr. Hartman and asked if she'd be on Pod Therapy to discuss her research, and she didn't say no. So we're going to see if that turns into a bonus episode here soon.
That would be so if we do
Pod Therapy
get
live
that
from the orgy.
If we no.
It's just all this moaning in the background. Just Nick crying in the mic. I'm so scared.
Yeah. You and I wearing raincoats.
Yeah, hazmat suits.
I didn't think of doing a live broadcast, but
Yeah.
no. But if we do a bonus episode, and if we are able to get her, and she's
Yeah.
willing to do that, we should tweet it out ahead of time.
Yes.
So we can have some of our listeners write in
that'd be
any
awesome.
questions they may have.
About the orgy science.
Right.
Yeah.
And
that's a great
yeah.
idea. So you can get ahead of it, folks. If you want to ask special questions, we have not set a hard date for Dr. Hartman, but you can go ahead and send those in. And if we end up booking her, we will ask. So
Yeah.
she's hosting the world's largest orgy at the Erotic Heritage Museum this weekend in Las Vegas. And it's in the name of science. She's going to be studying with her team of sex therapists. She's actually a licensed sex therapist. And that's how we know her in the community, is for her research and her academics, and she's the executive director of the Erotic Heritage Museum. But exciting stuff. So way to go, Las Vegas. Way to set those records.
Absolutely. What
So
else would
proud
you
of our
expect?
city.
Yeah.
Yes. And on another note, I have a special package here. It was Nick's birthday in April. And so I ordered you something, Nick, but it's from China. So it took all this time to get here from
Seriously.
Amazon. So I got you an exciting thing. Nick really likes golf. And Nick really likes fashion.
I have a feeling I know what this is.
It's wonderful. So I was like, man, I got to find something that he could fashionably wear while he plays golf. And I went for this. So, Nick, go ahead and receive your gift, and I'm going to tape it, and I'm going to put it on our websites and social media. And so I am, hitting record now. And there's the beautiful Nick Tangeman in my screen, and there's his lovely gift. And go ahead and open that up and describe what it is for our folks on the podcast here.
It's bubble wrap!
Yeah, bubble wrap, which I expect is going to be all over the floor of the Erotic Heritage Museum because there's no carpet. So just bubble wrap. Yes. Good radio work there,
Yeah,
man.
just want to prove it.
All right, so what are we looking at?
This looks to be an umbrella.
Okay, that's one way of
A very,
thinking about
very small umbrella.
it. Yes, very small silver umbrella as he opens it. And now realizes that it has utility, according to the Amazon profile on the website.
Oops.
So, nice bump.
Sorry.
He bumps
Yep,
the mic.
Hitting the mic. Yes, this is a hat.
Okay.
This is an umbrella hat.
It is. It's for golf. I know how much you care about fashion, and I know that we don't want you to get sunburned.
Obviously you don't.
Yeah, you are a pasty fellow, and I don't want you to burn out there this summer in the 120-degree heat. And
Okay.
so, look at him. He's going to put it on. What a champ.
Headphones are coming
Headphones are off, but he can still talk.
I don't know how.
Yes. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. This is way better than I imagined it was going to be. So nice.
Is it
Very
on?
good. It
Can't see
works. There you go. Dude, you are going to be the king of the course. They're all going to admire you. They're going to be like, look at this guy. Look at this guy with his gorgeous... It looks beautiful. In fact, I'm going to take a still shot of you. Good
Okay.
pose. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Happy birthday, Nick.
Thank you.
You you look gorgeous.
You really shouldn't have.
But I did.
You really shouldn't have.
All right, the festivities are now over. We know that you are ready to go golf. We know the orgy's coming up. But it is time.
So this serves two purposes.
Yeah, you can wear that. That's right. If you're in the splash zone of the orgy, you can wear that on your head. So you don't want it to get in your hair, Nick.
Classic.
Oh, just so you know, this is not a kid-friendly show today. At least it was supposed to be, but I'm going to have to mark it explicit now because we talked about orgies.
Trigger warning.
Trigger warning, yeah. Always after the spoilers, so... But so we got a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so we got some new research in having to do with a new study in the workplace.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
It is super interesting. So everybody's heard about the Me Too movement, where we're starting to examine the experience that women in America tend to have, right? And so it's focused on sexual assault and ways that men sort of take advantage. But there's a larger conversation about what it's like to be a woman working in this country and how often they experience negativity, what we might call deviance or incivility when they're made to feel pressure or oppressed. And this is a fascinating study because it kind of runs counter to what we thought we were kind of seeing evolve in the place. So it's called the Queen Bee Syndrome. That's what the study's called, the Queen Bee Syndrome. And here's the little title of it. A new study states that in the workplace, women oppress other women. Dr. Allison Gabriel from the University of Arizona conducted a study to identify how much workplace deviance women experience, and, this is key, from who? So the study surveyed men and women who were employed full-time and had them answer questions about the incivility they experienced at work during the last month. The questions were about coworkers who put them down or were condescending, made demeaning or derogatory remarks, ignored them in a meeting, or addressed them in unprofessional terms. Each set of questions was answered twice, once for male coworkers and once for female coworkers. So, here's the results. The results were, according to Dr. Gabriel, across 3 studies that they did that compared these findings, they found consistent evidence that women reported higher levels of incivility from other women rather than their male counterparts. And she adds, in other words, women are ruder to each other than they are to men or than men are to women. And she added this isn't to say that men are off the hook or that they weren't engaging in these behaviors, but when we compared the average levels of incivility reported, female-instigated incivility was reported more often than male-instigated incivility by women in 3 total studies. Pretty crazy stuff there. So the takeaway from this study is that women are mean. Women are mean girls, man. It's Mean Girls, just like that high school movie.
Yeah, which this doesn't really. I got to be very careful.
Yeah,
I feel like this.
Just throw it out there, dude.
This is a trap.
This is a trap. It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Admiral Akbar.
No, this doesn't really surprise me just from anecdotal evidence and just from women that I know in the workplace and how complaints that they have, and it typically it seems to be more from other women than men. So that doesn't really surprise me. But the thing that I found really interesting about this study, going into the traits, right? Yeah. So they looked at common traits or different personality traits, and the thing that they found was that when comparing men's traits to women's traits, when women go against, common traits or
gender stereotypes.
Gender stereotypes. When women go against gender stereotypes, it negatively affects them.
Right.
When men go against gender stereotypes for men, it positively affects them.
So let's unpack that statement just so people understand. So another aspect of the study was they identified not only are women saying, hey, I get picked on by women, not men in my workplace, but they also added that whenever they noticed that a woman had what we might call male stereotype traits, so they became assertive or they were dominant, that worked against them. The women rallied and mutinied them and treated them terribly. Whereas men, if they behaved in a non-dominant, non-assertive way, it broke in their favor. People really liked that, and they tended to treat them better. And so it's just another double standard thing, which I think is an interesting fact. I mean, obviously, this study, we should not interpret this to mean, oh, men have nothing to learn, right? That's not what this study is. But it's fascinating to think about how women might, in the workplace, how they view other women and how they treat other women and how they, at least in this study, they appear to be uncivil to each other and instigate each other and put each other down. And Nick, part of the thing that I was looking at in this study that I found really interesting as a takeaway, it seems like it's an inherently slanted survey because you're polling these humans and you're asking, hey, have you experienced this kind of communication style? Passive-aggressive, incivil, just being slighty and like bitchy, right? And we associate that with female aggression. Like, that's not normal male aggression. When males are aggressive or they don't like you, they don't tend to draw from that inventory of human ways to poke at you. Like, they tend to be pretty direct about it, or they avoid you. Like, if the study was, have you ever been avoided by a male colleague who doesn't seem to like you? Or a colleague, just ignored, I'll bet you that men would score higher in that regard. When I don't like a coworker, I ignore them.
Right.
Like, I don't actually say mean things behind their back.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I guess kind of going along with that, one thing that I noticed is that it's talking about how it was reported.
Right.
So could it also be that when women experience hostility from men, it goes unreported because it's not as noticeable? It's kind of more of an expectation that maybe they have.
So one aspect that came into the study for me was the sensitivity factor. And this is anecdotal, folks, and I'm just the therapist just speculating here, but in my experience, I think women are very aware of like any possible interpretation of a slight from another woman. And I don't think that they give that same kind of credit to men. They don't put men through that same scrutiny. Guys get credit for just being dumb. And so it's like if a guy accidentally sits in your seat or doesn't open the door for you, you don't even think anything of it. You're just like, whatever, he's an idiot. Right. Like if a female coworker doesn't offer a compliment or do something that's affirming or positive or is quiet, you might interpret that. You might be tempted to interpret that as aggressive or dismissive or like she doesn't like you and makes you uncomfortable. And I feel like there's an unfortunate bias there that women often have to go above and beyond. Like they have to be kind to each other. They have to go, oh, you look great today, and oh, I love this outfit, or hey, would you like some of my chips? Like they have to fill that void. Whereas as a man, I have never felt that responsibility. Like I've never worried that my girl coworkers are going to think that I'm a bitch and I don't like them. But women have to worry about that. If they appear cold, somebody else will interpret that, or at least other females might interpret that as aggressive.
Sure. And it would be interesting to look at tribalism and how that factors in. You don't expect to be attacked by somebody within your own tribe.
Right.
You do expect it from somebody of the opposite tribe, right? So I'm, a female and a male does something. It's like, well, that's what men do. That's what I expect. But then when this woman does it, it's like, hey, what the hell?
Right. I see your point. That's a good point, actually, because like as a man, if I'm slighted by a female at work, I don't even probably notice it. And like I don't take a lot of offense to it because in the back of my mind, I'm always reminding myself, Jim, you're an idiot. So if they said something that you took the wrong way, 99% of the time, you're an idiot and they're just being normal. And so dismiss that and move on. Whereas if another man does something that I, would cleanly understand to be aggressive or something, I can draw from my lexicon. Like I know male language a lot better, and so I know what that means. And there's been lots of times when I've pulled you aside, I've been like, "Hey, are you mad at me?" And you're like, "No." Like today, Nick's desk was clean, and like it was. I've never even seen the top of his desk. Like it's always covered in papers. I've worked with him for years, and I saw it. I brought coffee to him this morning because I'm a nice guy, and I see his desk and I text him immediately. I'm like, "Hey, are you quitting? Like, what's going on?" Like I'm really scared. Like, are you leaving?
Yeah. And honestly, it's just because I finally got caught up.
Yeah, 7 years, and you
finally
got
me 7 years.
Congrats, man! Yeah. It's a big day. Now you can actually do something on the weekend.
I can take a vacation.
You can take a vacation. But this is a fascinating study, and I'm curious about the listeners. I mean, would you say that your experience lines up with this? Female listeners that are out there working at JOB. Would you say that you've experienced more negativity, hatred, incivility from female coworkers versus male coworkers? And I think there's a lot there to take a look at.
I would also be interested to hear from some of our male listeners who work predominantly in male environments. And what is that like? Because that's something that I really can't relate to because in our line of work, it's 50-50 or almost more females than men.
Well, in the therapist profession, it's 80-20. It's
female?
80 female to 20% male.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And in
but
Las Vegas, it's
10%.
Right. We only have 10% male therapists in Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah. And that's well, you and I are unicorns, dude. We're
I
very
guess.
important. We're sacred.
If unicorns were 10% of the population, then I guess that makes sense.
I guess they're pretty rare. Yeah. So, but that's an interesting study anyway. So we'd love to hear feedback from folks. The queen bee syndrome. But another piece of the study that was really interesting too was that the more advancing a female was in the workplace, the more likely she was to be scorned. And so the big takeaway from the study was not just women experience incivility from other women. woman. And it wasn't just women who show dominant traits tend to be picked on.